Hello YouTube, Robin Hood Bricks here, and today we're going to do part 2 of Brick Nottingham Castle. And today I'm going to focus on doing the Gatehouse on this end. After the original yellow castle, set 375 in 1978, the castle range went into its old grey phase between 1984 and 1986, where some of the best and most loved castle sets were released. And it's that range that I want to use as the sort of inspiration for Brick Nottingham Castle. So the two major castles of that era, well, there were three really, but the two that I'm interested in replicating to a degree are the first one, 6080 King's Castle, and that's from 1984. And what I love about this set is its large gatehouse with this portcullis as well as the drawbridge. I love the double shields and the crossed lances above the door. We've got these sort of round brick details around the gate, these black inverted slopes holding up the, what would it be, parapet, I suppose. And it just looks really fantastic. So I'm going to use this as some serious inspiration for my castle. Things I don't particularly like about this set are the black drawbridge, because in those days we didn't really have much brown brick. It was old brown, and it was just reserved for things like treasure chests and a couple of minifigure pieces. So I'm going to change the black drawbridge on my castle to reddish brown. I also don't like the narrow walkways that they used to have on these high walls, in that they were only about 1 or 2 studs deep, and it just looked a bit narrow and a bit like you'd be more likely to fall off backwards if you were ever trying to repel some invaders or anything. And also this large gatehouse, which contains the portcullis when it's in the up position, portcullis being the big gate, is open backed, and that's not great. It wasn't so bad, for a child, in the fact that you'll be able to see the portcullis retreating into the gatehouse. But because mine will be able to be seen from several different angles in my Lego room, I want to enclose that portion of my build. So features that I absolutely have to include in Brick Nottingham Castle from here are a drawbridge. I mean, what's a castle without a drawbridge? And we've already established from the last video that I need a drawbridge because I need to be able to span the gap between Brick Mountain, being the castle rock that this is on, and what I'm calling the hill, which will be another raised area sort of over here. And so a drawbridge would need to span that gap. So that's the first feature I'm going to have to concentrate on. But I'm also going to have to incorporate a portcullis, because that's fundamental. And rather than try and do a plate built one like in that set 6080, I've gone ahead and cheated really and got one of the much more modern portcullis pieces, because it just looks so fantastic. I mean, it's exactly what I need, and it's in this sort of metallic dark grey. So I'll be incorporating that as well to sort of come crashing down behind the drawbridge. And I'm also going to use the influence of some of those different brick types that were used and crossed weapons above the door and all the rest of it. Now, the second set that I'm going to use for influence is set 6074, Black Falcon's Fortress. Now, that one's from 86, as opposed to the other one being in 84. And this was kind of the baddie castle. And the thing I absolutely adore about this one is the curved turrets. So you saw the other one was very square on the corners, square on the gatehouse and so on. But these curved turrets either side of the gate itself are just a fantastic shape. So I will definitely be trying to use that in my castle. Now this one does have a drawbridge, which is essential as we discussed, but it doesn't have a portcullis, and that's because it hasn't got a gatehouse in order for it to go into. So I'm going to have to mash up these two castles to create one that's got the central square gatehouse for the portcullis to retreat into, and with these rounded large turrets on either side. While we're here, other things I like about this castle are the bright yellow arches over the door. I don't know why I like them, but they just look fantastic in my mind, so I'm definitely going to try and use yellow arches over the doorway in my castle as a sort of nod back to this set. I also like the use of flags around the door and on the turret at the back. And I also like that turret itself at the back with the sort of enclosed area with the sort of mock Tudor, which I suppose would have been genuine Tudor in those days, sort of effect on that yellow panel piece. So a lot of interesting influences there. So I suggest we get on with the build. So I've already estimated the distance that I'm going to need to cover with this drawbridge. And you can see I've already deliberately had this area recessed as well in order to accommodate that drawbridge. And the reason why I've done this recessed area is because when the portcullis is in a down position, the drawbridge is in a down position, I want it to be level with the ground. Because a lot of the old sets, when they were built on a base plate, the drawbridge that would sort of come down would be above ground level, because it kind of had to be, which meant minifigures would have to kind of step up onto it as well as stepping down off it at the other side. So what I want to do is have something at a much lower level, so it's here on this lip, and then you can walk seamlessly from here onto that with no break whatsoever. So that's the thing I'm going to do first, build that level drawbridge. Okay, so here we are with reddish brown and some nice tiles and curved slopes just for the surface to give it a nice finish. And you can see that that is hinged on these two old grey Technic 1x2 bricks, and it can go all the way up and all the way down without any trouble. And this will be on a play feature and wound up with some strings or chains in due course. But and it is quite long, because it has to be this long in order to reach the hill, which is what I'm calling this side, from the mountain, which is what I'm calling this side. Official name, Castle Rock. And you can see that I've achieved the effect I was going for, in that this is all at the same level. So a minifigure walking along here can do so without having to step up at all when it's in a down position. And the same will be true on the other side when it's there, in that it will fit kind of into a slot on the other side as well, so it'll just be seamless, which is actually how the real ones are anyway. So pretty simple structure that, but I very much like the seamless nature of it there, and it looks pretty good fitting in with the rock shape as well. So I'm going to now build a curved turret on each side and see how that looks. Okay, there's some rounded turrets. Now, I've replicated those rounded bricks near the entrance, like in set 6080, the King's Castle. I've put in these corner panel pieces with the occasional patterned one to replicate the rounded turrets on Black Falcon's Fortress 6074. But what I've also done is widen the gap between the two corner panels, because before it was only one gap, which meant that an archway had to be basically a hole into the castle rather than anything enclosed. And I think it looks a lot better with this arched frame with sort of a barred window in it, because it's very high up, as this climber down here can attest, and therefore it's very hard to get into. So having a slightly bigger window with bars on isn't really a problem for me. I've also got it sort of slightly hanging off the cliff, both there and over here, to give it the sort of old appearance, like it's sort of crumbling away a bit. And I really like that. Another feature that makes it look quite old is, I mean, I never bought either of the two sets that I'm using as inspiration. I've just bought lots of auctions with random old grey bits and panels and so on, part sets and just, bundles really, in order to get as many of the pieces as I can to complete this. And as a result, some of them are quite old, tatty, some of the bits are a bit more faded than others. And I've got some bricks that are quite sun damaged on one side or the other, but I don't mind that, because as long as it's not too bad, it gives the stone a sort of variation in colour that is quite appealing, really, because it's a very old castle. I mean, the original castle was built in the 1100s, so if it was still around today, it would be very old looking indeed. So I don't mind that. Also, there's even sort of slight scraping and damage on some of them, but I think, again, that adds to it. And the fact that it's old grey, which is a bit of a nasty grey really, rather than the bright new light bluish grey, also means that it looks a lot older. So these are all good factors as far as I'm concerned. Right, I need to now put in a portcullis, and the portcullis, which we looked at earlier, is supported with these pieces, which are sort of kind of like those modified bricks with the gap in, except they've got this extra bit so you can secure them a bit better to the rest of the castle, and they come in old grey, which is obviously the most important factor. So I've got two of those, so I'll put one either side there. Then we can see that the portcullis will come down with a slam there onto this row here of tiles that I've put in on the far side of the drawbridge. And just for a check, yep, that can go up all the way and not interfere either. Good. So I'm just going to build a little bit more wall down this side and put some plates sort of holding these two turrets together. Now I'm going to be using dark bluish grey for a plate layer, which will be essentially the layer that the inhabitants of the castle will stand on at the battlements. Originally these were all in old grey, but they were a lot more narrow, as I said earlier, and I don't have those pieces in old grey, and I think this will give it a nice band when we've got the rest of the battlements above in old grey. I think it will be a good contrast. So I'm going to do one plate layer in dark bluish grey next. Looking good though. Well, it is seriously complicated building these castles. You've just got to have everything working in exactly the same space. The portcullis, the drawbridge, all these lines and so on, and these panel pieces all just fitting together perfectly. So it's quite hard work actually. The next phase was putting on this dark grey layer, which I quite like. You can see this corner piece is very faded and sun damaged, but I don't mind that, as I said. I've put some tiles on as well, so when this is enclosed, that it will be seamless with the bottom of these panel pieces. So it'll be like that, sort of with the door in from the back into the inside of the turret, so it looks more usable. Because I don't want these to be sort of open backed, because as I said, we'll be seeing them from all different angles. Now we need another set of these pieces to continue this on up into the next layer, so we can still get our portcullis in. Fantastic. And now as well we can put in our yellow arch, which will go in here. That is a really good contrast, isn't it? It looks fantastic. Brilliant. Okay, so I'm going to finish up this tower You can see I've started off the wall a little bit. That will be going all the way along this side and linking up with this lower bit of wall for the dungeon. So I'm going to finish up this bit and maybe put a roof on that. So here's another good angle to see some detail. We've got, excuse me Robin, two sort of rooms being created here and here for the bottom level of the turrets, and also two rooms in here and here for the next layer of the turrets. And I want this to look good from the back, so I've got another arch, this time just in grey, and some smaller arches for over the open doorways into the turrets. And that looks pretty good if you ask me. So we've got a nice shape there, and people on these wider dark bluish grey walkways can go into the turret, presumably down some stairs and out there and so on. I think that looks pretty good. Now the next thing is to do the winding mechanism for the drawbridge around the front. And I think instead of using chains, which admittedly do look a lot better as the sort of bits that will be attached to the end pulling this thing up, they don't wind very well. So I think I'm going to use the cord pieces with the studs on each end. And that's the technique that was used in the Castle Lion King set from 2013. That's set 70404. And it looks like a very efficient system. It's got a visible winding mechanism, but as you may know, I quite like having visible play features because I want Lego to look like Lego and not real life. So I think I'm going to try and do a version on that. Right, wish me luck. Right, back round the front, and I've got the cords with the studs on coming out of these lovely little 1x3 arch pieces. I've put in some headlight bricks as well because I want to add some shields or some crossed weapons later as decor. And what we've got is a great big axle running through the entire top of this with a handle on. And the handle, when these are attached, will wind out or wind in. So let's attach those. Oh, let's squeeze this down a bit more. There we go. So take these off. If we wind it down, it's a really good system actually from that 70404. So let's have one on each side. So it's like that. Let's just change the angle. Okay, so then we can wind this and hopefully it will come up. Oh, fantastic. Look at that. It'd be great when this portcullis is going as well. And we've got these bright, I just love these bright yellow arch pieces. They look fantastic there, don't they? Brilliant. Right, I'm going to finish off the top of this and do the other mechanism for the portcullis. Okay, so it's quite hard tying the portcullis onto its string, which is then on this sort of axle contraption with another winder on the end. We feed that all the way through there, and then we have that being able to be wound up. and it can be held in position. Fantastic. And then slam shut. Brilliant. So we're going to use some more panel pieces to make sure this is sealed in position, because I don't want you to be able to see all this workings, because obviously you can see that one. You can probably just see in there the similar setup for the drawbridge. So I'm going to put some more of these panel pieces on to seal it up. And you can probably also see in here there's sort of another archway into what would be the gatehouse, allowing defenders to have access to the side turrets of the fortress. And then the last piece of all, after putting on a couple of these 1x1s, is, that's a bit stained, that one, probably its best edge. And the last piece is the lid. If it all lines up. And none of the old castles had these three-way slope pieces, which is just out of shot. Let me fix that. Aha, there we go. Yeah, none of the old sets had these three-way slope pieces. They would just have the battlements like that, like I've got around all the rest. And they're quite hard pieces to get hold of in old grey. So I only managed to get enough to do the top turret. But I think it gives it a slightly different look. And I think it looks quite spiky and quite fun. So I'm happy with that. Brilliant. I think we've done the gatehouse. Let's move to the front and try out those action features again. Ho ho ho, how about that? Fantastic. I think that looks really good. So we've got the rounded turrets from the Black Falcon's Fortress set idea, but broadened so we can accommodate these two wide windows with the barred pieces. We've also got the square central gatehouse inspired by the other set, the King's Castle from 1984, but I've added more modern play features, both for the portcullis and for the drawbridge, seamlessly integrated with Castle Rock, reddish brown drawbridge, modern portcullis piece, and those lovely yellow arches. So let's try out these features again. So we've got the drawbridge going up and going down, all on one level with the ground floor. And then we've got the portcullis, which way am I winding it? There we go. Going up. And it can stay up. Get it going and it will slam shut. Oop, will it? Oh, it's a bit sticky. Let's try that again. It's up. There we go. Down. Fantastic. So I think I just need to finish this with a few touches. I put on a lot of these headlight brick pieces to enable me to put some flags on. Look pretty good. And I thought I'd have, well, I was deciding whether to do shields in here, a pair of shields or a pair of crossed weapons, and I decided that a pair of crossed axes would probably look the best. So that's what I've gone for. Okay, looking good. The brown also picks up with the brown of the drawbridge and the brown of the two play features. Well, I think that, especially with these spikes on the top, I really like those. I think that looks rather special. And you can see the shapes repeating of these arches here, 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 here. and obviously on the gate, and it just really ties it all together. And even here for these tiny little gunnels for the ropes to go. Another thing I'm quite proud of is the fact that each of these rooms, here and here, here and here, and even in here, is technically accessible from somewhere else. So at least gives the impression that soldiers could move in between all of these different parts of the fortifications if they were defending it. Brilliant. I'm really happy with that. So quite a long one today, but thank you very much for watching. An extra thank you if you made it all the way through. Do remember to like, comment and subscribe for more awesome LEGO videos, including the next part of this LEGO castle. So next time I'll be continuing, I guess, with the sides to put in some more features and incorporate some more sets from the 1980s. See you then!